Uhuru comrades, brothers, and sisters, my name is Akile Anai, Director of Media and Communications for the African People's Socialist Party and Uhuru Movement. And I'm doing this pop up live to address recent attacks made on the Black liberation movement by the white left. Our movement was made aware today of what can only be characterized as a contending and interventionist mobilization. The white led Answer Coalition, led by Brian Becker, despite being invited and called upon months ago to support the Black People's March on the White House on November 4th, has now announced they will be holding a march in Washington, D.C. at the same time and the same location, which is an obvious attack and attempt to undermine the Black People's March. They are doing this under the cover of a demonstration in support of Palestine, but it's really an attempt to drive a wedge between the African and Palestinian struggles, pitting us against one another. But we are clear. There is no contradiction between the African and Palestinian struggle, which has always been united. The contradiction is between the opportunist white left and the anti-colonial struggle. The Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations, of which the African People's Socialist Party is a member organization, and Chairman Amalia Shatella, a founding member and present chair, has held the Black People's March on the White House annually now, which for the past 15 years, around the same time each year. This year's march is co-sponsored by the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition, born from the counteroffensive to push back state attacks against the Black liberation movement following the assault made on our party by the FBI in 2022. This mobilization has been on the agenda and public knowledge of these forces organizing this contending demonstration for almost a year. For at least 14 years, the Black is Back has called on genuine solidarity from the white left and requested their participation at the mobilizations. And each year, we've attempted to bring forces in from groups like Answer Coalition to unite with our struggle against a common enemy, with the clear leadership of the anti-colonial struggle. The Answer Coalition has met our forces out on outreach. They've received calls, texts, and emails inviting them and have never responded. The resources that the white left and Brian Becker have access to has never been used for a single bus to Washington, D.C., let alone a single flyer or poster. This is an obvious attempt to overwhelm the Black is Back coalition, composed of African working class organizations, with their resources. The Black People's March on the White House is an opportunity for all freedom-loving people, those in support of the democratic rights of African people in this country, to those in support of the anti-colonial liberation struggles unfolding throughout the world, including in Palestine, to support the demands of colonized people ourselves. This mobilization has inspired simultaneous demonstrations being organized on the US West Coast, in London, England, Pretoria, South Africa, and is also being planned for Australia. This march was called under the theme, Not One Step Backwards, Drop the Charges Against the Uhuru Three, with recognition that unlike the counterinsurgency against the Black Revolution of the 1960s that resulted in a devastating political and ideological defeat for our movement, with the aid and complicity of the white left in this country, we refuse to have the same outcome this time around. This white left opportunist move cannot be seen any differently from the assault made on our party by the direct colonial state on July 29, 2022. The US government sent in drones and assault rifles and used Russia as a cover to make their assault. In this case, the white left is using Palestine as a cover to assault our movement, to take us back in time where the colonial question hadn't achieved this much recognition. The FBI attacked the African liberation movement through our party and threatens Chairman Amalia Shatella and the Uhuru Three with 10 to 15 years in prison for exercising their right to free speech, which includes projecting an independent anti-colonial voice. This white left mobilization is another attempt to silence the voice of African and colonized peoples under the guise of being supportive to the liberation struggle of Palestinians. What the Answer Coalition has effectively done is deny the right of our movement to put forward our own program, our own agenda, and demands. This is not a new struggle. The white left has historically attacked the Black liberation movement, abandoning our struggle at the height of the counterinsurgency, hoarding their stolen resources when the movement was being economically strangled, and diverting the struggle away from the colonial question. Part of this interventionist attack's objective is to lock us into an artificial conflict with Palestinians. But we know that there has been no greater steadfast ally towards the Palestinians than Africans in the US and throughout the world. Malcolm X lodged a fierce criticism of Israel, recognizing Zionism as another form of colonialism. Huey P. Newton, chairman of the Black Panther Party, recognized that Israel was created by Western imperialism and is maintained by Western firepower. The Black is Back Coalition developed a 19-point national Black political agenda for self-determination with this point: free Palestine, down with Israeli apartheid. We demand recognition of all rights of the Palestinian people, including the right to an independent, sovereign Palestinian state and the right to return for all Palestinian refugees. The US must immediately end all monetary aid, trade relationships, and military cooperation with the apartheid Zionist state of Israel under that uniquely barbaric affront to human civilization is dismantled and abolished. Likewise, the Palestinians have stood in solidarity with African people, notably with the uprisings of Ferguson, Missouri after the murder of Mike Brown, and in Minneapolis, Minnesota with the murder of George Floyd. This is a consequence of both a natural and objective unity because of a shared enemy, a shared struggle, the colonized versus the colonizer. We refuse to allow the white left to use Africans against the Palestinians and the Palestinians against Africans. What is revealed by this assault is the fact that the white left is afraid of the same things the settler ruling class is afraid of: that someone will come with a clear, correct analysis about the situation in the world and pave the way forward for African and colonized peoples to achieve power. That someone is undoubtedly Chairman Amalia Shatella and the theory of African internationalism, which has been out in front, which is why we are under attack by Joe Biden and the Department of Justice today. They are concerned that this time Africa has a voice of her own, that Palestinians have a voice of their own, and it's a voice they cannot contain. We're taking the covers off. If Brian Becker and the Answer Coalition gave a damn about the struggle of Palestinians, they would pour their resources into this process being led by Black people. They would organize buses, endorse the Black People's March, and support the anti-colonial movement. They would end the attempt to isolate the struggle of Palestine from the anti-colonial struggles unfolding in the settler colony of the US, made by Africans and indigenous/Mexicans, the struggles erupting in Africa and Haiti. There is no freedom for Palestine independent of a struggle against colonialism. The people of Palestine are fighting for an end to the illegitimate settler colony known as Israel. They are fighting to dispel this US imperialist outpost. They are fighting for power just as Africans are throughout the world. The world is changing, and the white left settlers are attempting to co-opt this period. The settlers are afraid of what true liberation looks like for Africans, for the indigenous, for the Palestinians, for the colonized of the world. It has never been able to support the independent anti-colonial struggle of colonized peoples. And now that this period has been ushered in, promising a world free of colonial domination, it aims to take us nowhere. We can only assume that the white left doesn't support this march because they don't control it. This opportunism of the white left is a clear attempt to maintain the status quo of colonial exploitation and oppression. It's a dishonest, opportunistic, and state-like assault that positions the white left against the African liberation movement once again. We call on all of you to denounce the attacks being made on the African liberation and anti-colonial struggle. We call on all who support the right of African people to fight for self-determination, who support the struggle of the Palestinians, the indigenous Mexican and Filipino people, the people of Venezuela, and all colonized people, to participate in the Black People's March on the White House on November 4th. We call on settlers who want to jump off the pedestal, who don't wish to stand on the side of the oppressor, to join the Black People's March reparations contingent. Genuine, principled solidarity from the settler population means embracing the leadership of the anti-colonial movement. Colonized people have agency. We chart our own course. If you cannot side with it, then you gotta get out of the way. Settler colonialism must go, for whatever, backwards never. Hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa, free Palestine, and drop the charges now. And go to blackpeoplesmarch.com to register. Uhuru.
Uhuru, this is Margaret Kimberly. All out on Saturday, November 4th for the 15th Annual Black People's March on the White House, sponsored by the Black is Back Coalition. dropped the charges on Omali Yeshitela, chairman of the African People's Socialist Party, leader of the Uhuru movement. On July 29, 2022, the FBI launched pre-dawn raids on 7 properties of the Uhuru movement in 2 cities using assault weapons, flashbang grenades, and drones. The chairman and 2 others, known as the Uhuru Three, have been indicted by the U.S. government and face federal charges. Chairman Yeshitela has said, "The FBI wants to put me on trial for fighting for black freedom. Put the colonial state on trial, we will win." An attack on free speech for Chairman Omali Yeshitela is an attack on everyone's free speech. March under the banner of the anti-colonial free speech movement. Register for the Black People's March on the White House on Saturday, November 4th at blackpeoplesmarch.com or go to handsoffuhuru.org. Drop the charges against the Uhuru Three and power to the people.